Hello, everybody. This is Artie Astor from B Sharp and C, and I have another episode for you today involving Pink Floyd, my favorite band. And it's the song Great Gig in the Sky. The vocal track was recorded by a woman named Clare Torry. And there's a little bit of an urban legend behind this. And urban legends in music are very common because people make comments and then they get perpetuated. And with social media, they really get perpetuated. Like, for instance, Will Ferrell. Will Ferrell did not play the actual flute solo in the movie Anchorman. He did not play that. But there are YouTube shorts and TikTok reels and Instagram reels that have that voice. Did you know that in the movie Anchorman? And it shows Will Ferrell playing the solo, and then they say that he actually is a jazz flautist. Not true. He did not play that solo. So there are times when urban legends get perpetuated, and the one with Clare Torry is another urban legend that she walked into the studio, did one take, and left. Um, no, that is not what happened. Let me play the song, and then I will talk a little bit about it. It's a beautiful, beautiful, like I think it's like a G minor 7. Hold on a second. And then to like a C minor, like natural 6. It's like to say like a C minor and major 6, like something like that. I've gone through I've gone to a couple different sites. There were some piano sites too where they have the notes coming down and then they play and then and it's weird when you go to 3 or 4 different sites and all the chords are completely different. You realize, like myself, there are people trying to interpret, trying to analyze and interpret what's actually happening. I went to one site that had the thing completely messed up, and then I compared that to the actual song, and it didn't even sound the same. So I don't know what they're teaching people. Um, Usually the most complex websites that show the most complex chord inversions and complex chord voicings, usually those are flat out wrong. And the reason why is because as a songwriter, when you play in G minor, G minor 7 in this case, you really don't, as a songwriter, want to make it some weird, you know, B flat, major 7, flat 5, this, that, and that. You actually don't want to make it a horribly complex chord. Usually the simpler is the better. Now, if it's too simple, like if it's just G minor C, G minor C, G minor C, then it's like, okay, that's not right either. Usually there are inflections, something like that. I didn't really give it much time. I just thought that it was really nice. It's a beautiful sound. And as Clare Torry gets to singing, the chords don't change as much. There's a little bit less going on because now you're focusing on her vocals, and it's usually easier as a vocalist to improvise over a 2 or 3 chord progression than it is over an 8 or 12 chord progression where you have chords all over the place. It's usually easier to be in the world of 2 chord changes. And you can improvise a lot. And guitar players are the same way. Especially if you're a rock guitarist, you really don't want this horribly complex chord progression because you do have to follow the chord changes as you play, so it could actually end up being a little incongruent, and you don't want that. Okay, all that being said, let's get right into it. All right, so I found a music video on the Pink Floyd YouTube channel. So that might be something that we can watch. It adds a little bit of a visual. Let me pull it up. Nothing like a little visual. So here's the music video for it. Let me make it smaller because it's not a live performance. We don't necessarily need to really zoom in on a lot. So let's listen to it. When it's over, I will tell you the story behind it and Don't worry, Clare Torry herself can tell you the story because she has an interview on YouTube. Let's listen.
And I am not frightened of dying. Any time will do, I don't mind. Why should I be frightened of dying? There's no reason for it. You've got to go sometime.
They turned up the reverb there. There's 2 tracks on that piano. But anyways, that was the song in its entirety. Great Gig in the Sky. There's almost no reason for me to stop it necessarily in the middle. It's just such a beautiful song. Now, what is the story behind it? You can go to YouTube. You can get it yourself as well. She's interviewed, but it's all over the internet as far as Wikipedia and other websites, Pink Floyd fan sites. She was called into the studio because of some work that she had done with another band. I think it was, I forget what it was called, something pop. But she did some work on another band, and Alan Parsons had heard her sing, and she ended up getting called in. But the funny thing is, she couldn't go the first day. She's like, "I'm busy. It's a schedule conflict. Let me come back." So interestingly, she put it on hold, not knowing what she was actually putting on hold. She put it on hold, and then the week after she went in, and they said, sing. Think about death, think about sadness, think about this, and go in and sing. And she started off on the first take, she started off singing, "Oh, baby," like, "Oh, baby, baby." And they're like, "No, we don't want words. We want you to scat sing." And she's like, "Okay." And I think it was written down. The name of the song, Great Gig in the Sky, was not written down on the sheet. I believe it was what was written down was scat singing or something like that. So she had gone in, she did the first take, and she comes right out and says, and this is not surprising to me at all, David Gilmour was the one who worked the closest with her. He was the one who was like, "I can write down the chord sequence for you. I can do this. I can do that, whatever you need." So it was really she and David Gilmour kind of brainstorming, going back and forth. She did a second take. So now you have two takes, which means simply you can take portions of either of the two takes, you know. And then David Gilmour said, "Let's do a third take." And here's what's interesting: she disagreed with David Gilmour. David Gilmour said, "I think we can do this better." And she was like, "I don't think we can do this better. I think we have what we need." She stopped in the middle of the third take. So imagine that. Imagine that. Being paid, being in the studio, you do two takes. Now you're doing a third take, and you stop and you say, "You know what? I'm not feeling this. I'm done." And then now they had two and a half takes, two takes and three quarters, who knows? But from those three takes, they were able to cut and splice and put together the beautiful song, Great Gig in the Sky. I think she got like a $60 studio or £60 studio fee. I think there was, according to resources, according to the sources I've read, she did end up suing them later for songwriting rights, which is interesting because depending upon where you are, and I've mentioned this to musicians too, and they don't even know what I'm talking about, but I'll say um, that sometimes it's good to go by the Nashville rules, which is what I read in a book. Is that the Nashville rules are everyone who contributes to writing the song gets an even cut. And she got £60, but essentially wrote the vocal melody for that whole entire song, and then later sued for songwriter rights or royalties. And I think it was settled out of court. Don't quote me on that. I don't remember exactly what I read, but I do know that it went to court. Um, I do know that she sued, right? I don't know if it actually went to court, but she sued. So that's it. That's the Great Gig in the Sky. Now, I would recommend going back and listening again and now imagining a young 20 something year old singer who doesn't even know who Pink Floyd is, who's kind of just, she's been doing studio work, a session player, right? She goes in and is told to just make something up, scat sing, make something up. And now imagine what's going through her mind as she's singing this. And of course, this comes out of the studio. Alan Parsons has work to do as far as, you know, finding the right parts of the takes to use, doing the right splicing, equalizing, all this stuff, adding and decreasing reverb and what have you. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I just think that this song is, I think Roger Waters is the one who called it a happy accident. It just worked out. It worked out. And she had no information. And here's what's funny. She was walking by a record store in 1973 when the album came out and saw Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon in the store and thought, let me go ahead and buy this because I might be on it. Actually, no. She looked at the cover. Back then, you could buy an album and look at the credits. And trust me, albums were big, so there was a lot of space for credits. And the vinyl albums were big, so they had a lot of space for credits. And she looked and saw her name and said, "This must be the song." And she listened to it from beginning to end. She loved it, and she thought, "This is what I did." Okay. And then she found out later that the record was having tremendous success. And it was in the early 2000s that the court case took place, from what I understand. Let me see if I can verify that. In 2004, Clare Torry sued Pink Floyd and EMI for songwriting royalties on the basis of her contribution to Great Gig in the Sky. I'll be honest with you, I kind of don't blame her. I think when someone comes in and gives a song an identity, like just, and plus she wrote the vocal, she wrote the melody. She went into the studio and made all that up. So all of that melody that's sung came from within her. She created that. So the vocal melody to the whole entire song is hers. So now let me see if they settled out of court. God, Wikipedia's asking for money again. I don't know what's worse, the pop-ups of them asking for money or actual commercials. Well, I guess the pop-ups aren't that bad now that I think about it. Sued. In 2004, Clare Torry sued Pink Floyd and EMI for songwriting royalties on the basis of her contribution to The Great Gig in the Sky, constituted co-authorship with Richard Wright. In 1973, as a session singer, she was paid only the standard Sunday flat studio rate, of £30. I thought it was 60, so this is good. £30, which is equivalent to £500 in 2023. She told Mojo in 1998, "If I'd known then what I know now, I would have done something about organizing copyright or publishing." In 2005, prior to a hearing in the High Court, an out of court settlement was reached, although the terms of the settlement were not disclosed. I mean, why not give her a million, like a couple £1 million, or £1 million? Her contribution to the album was really significant when you stop and think of it. Half a million, £1 million. Why not? I mean, Pink Floyd has the money. Um, on all pressings after 2005, the composition is credited to both Richard Wright and Clare Torry. So I don't know what she got, but now that she's credited with the composition, they might have given her some money, has £500,000, but then said, and going forward, you will be getting royalties. So I don't know if that, but that's how it should be. I mean, that's how it should be. She wrote the song, she wrote the song. You look at people like Mariah Carey and other people where they work with songwriters and they sit down and someone plays something on the piano. Um, Piano player comes in and does a little something, and then Mariah Carey or whoever it is begins to come up with the lyrics or the vocal melody and whatever. When they contribute to the songwriting, they are put in the credits as a co-writer and they get royalties. So, yeah. Anyways, I think that this is just really something. Such a beautiful song. Nothing for me to break down because I don't really want to break that down. As a performance, it's amazing. And to think that Clare Torry had the frame of mind to disagree with David Gilmour and say, no, I've given it all I can. You have more than enough to work with. But they might not have liked it back then, but she was absolutely right. She had the presence of mind to know, I've done my £30 worth of work. I'm done. So, anyways, let me know what you think of the song Great Gig in the Sky. Let me know what you think of the whole situation with Clare Torry. And that's it. This is Artie Astor from B Sharp and C saying, keep it groovy.